Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Chad Koulis. I'm Executive Director of the Midway Chamber of Commerce, and we are very happy to be here today. We have some good news. PPP loans are available once again. They are available for people for the first time or for an additional time, and we are very thrilled about that. The program reopened up again this week, and we have somebody from Sunrise Banks here who works very closely with SBA, Chris Albrecht, who happens to also be banker for the Midway Chamber, who also was helpful in us getting a loan this week for PPP. So I don't want to take up too much time here. I want us to get right into the program. If you do have questions, you can put them in the chat and we will hopefully get to all of them. Please welcome Chris Albrecht.
Thanks, Chad. It's really great to be here. It was nice that we could get this scheduled so quickly with the open of the new PPP round. And hopefully I'll be able to answer some questions if anyone has. Just kind of tell you what we know, how the program is working to date. If I can step back a minute, I'm Chris Albrecht. I'm on the board of the Midway Chamber. I'm also the director of SBA lending for Sunrise Banks. So again, we're very pleased to be able to have this conversation and hopefully answer any questions anyone has. And it's nice to see so many familiar faces. So thank you for taking the time out. I'd like to thank Anna in advance. She's going to help me with the slide deck. So if you hear the next, please, that is the talent behind the curtain today. So Anna, we're okay. Let's go next. So just as a quick recap, what we're talking about is the Paycheck Protection Program. It was part of the CARES Act, and what it allowed for were loans guaranteed up to 100% by the SBA, with a special feature that for the borrowers, they could be fully forgiven if conditions were met. Next. So we've got a couple poll questions we're hoping that you can help us with today. We're just trying to get an overview of where maybe the conversation thread will go, or where we could look at trying to provide some additional information. So real simple one, did you receive a round one PPP loan? And when you're ready, Anna, when we've got those in, we'll get those results and kind of an overview for the group. We've got a second one also. Okay, we're showing that 100% did not receive a round one PPP loan. Okay. I'm wondering if
Chris, I am seeing a couple of people in the chat just say that yes, they did. So
okay.
We're going to hear from a few people in the chat perhaps too.
Okay, let's Anna, when you're ready, go ahead and advance slides so we can still continue the poll, but we can, and then just pop in with the responses. We'll pick those up. So what I think everyone's really interested in seeing today is what's changed. So what's new in round two for the PPP program? So the program, round one of PPP allowed borrowers to get access to one loan. PPP allows borrowers to go back for a second draw, and they're referring to it as a second draw loan with the same general terms as the first PPP loan. Second draw loans, same use of proceeds, payroll costs. Keep in mind paycheck protection. So the design is to get businesses back up and operational and to keep employees receiving paychecks. So the interest rate has stayed the same on both loans, 1%. The second round has reduced the limit on the dollar amount. So for the second round, borrowers can borrow up to $2 million. First round, if you recall, was up to $10 million. So big change there. And again, the funds are used to help fund payroll costs, 60% for forgiveness would need to be used for those costs. Additionally, they can be used for other expenses. And in light of what we've seen this past year, the program has included eligible costs to be COVID related, and additionally, inclusion of additional costs caused by looting or vandalism. So that was a nice change to the program we were able to see. Next. So we're wondering right now, kind of what's your biggest concern from your employee standpoint? Are you concerned that we'll see a shutdown again, or retaining your employees, resources to keep your business afloat, or being able to continue to attract and retain customers during the pandemic?
All the above.
Right.
I'm not sure how we're supposed to get to the poll. Could you explain that for us? There's no link.
So if you look at the top of the screen, it says to text to the number 22333. So just think of that as like a phone number. And then once you are going to be texting, text Anna Powers 442. And then after you hit return, then you can answer A, B, C, or D.
Okay, so we want to jump right in. I'm sure everyone has questions about the program, and we really want to be able to provide as much insight as we can. So we've got some frequently asked questions. Let's take a look at those next. So as we had mentioned briefly before, a big question is, how much money can I borrow under PPP2? In general, they can be up to $2 million, or 2.5 times your average payroll, monthly payroll, whichever is less. Now, there is a provision for additional funds based on a NAICS code. NAICS codes that start with 72, hospitality, think restaurants, hotels, those industries that would likely have larger employee numbers, saw huge disruptions. They can borrow up to 3.5 times their average monthly payroll, whichever is less. And under the PPP1 loan, and maybe this is a good point to stop and make that differentiation again. The first round of PPP, there were some businesses that were not included. And as we know, chambers were one of them, 501c6s. They were included this second go round, and they are now eligible for a PPP loan. For processing, they would process as a first round borrower. So that's why we're including the differentiation between round 1 and round 2. Let me know if we want more clarity on that. But for instance, the Midway Chamber was now eligible for a loan as a 501c6. They would have applied under a round 1 funding. Next. We've included a link here, and we'll make sure that you have access to this as well. There's a lot of information. There are rules that the SBA puts out that we need to follow as we process loans. We're going to supply links for those as a resource to go through if you'd like some very not light reading by any means. So, but it does have all the rules in there. We wanted to include this as a resource as well. And next. Will they be forgiven? Will PPP loans be forgiven round 2? And again, second draw, round 2, be forgiven. That's the plan. If you meet eligibility for forgiveness, they will follow the same guidelines as first round PPP loans for forgiveness. And keep in mind that not less than 60% of the funds can be used for payroll during the covered period. Next. Anna, can we advance, please? There we go. Is there a deadline to apply for PPP2 funds? Right now, the date of the program expiring is March 31, 2021. Next. We're also going to include a link for the expanded eligibility for borrowers that can apply for the PPP loan with the recent legislation. So you'll receive that as well. And next. And how we'll, so when we go through the process and we go through the process of application and I can speak from Sunrise Bank's standpoint. The funds will be delivered to the borrowers via ACH transfer. So we've had a lot of borrowers ask, hey, if I apply for a loan and I get approved, how do I get the money? Does it come from the SBA, or how will I get my money? Will it come like the stimulus checks came? And the answer is no, it will come directly from the bank that you apply for the loan through. In our case, it's an ACH transfer. And next. So for processing, and again, from Sunrise Bank standpoint, we are accepting applications from anyone. Some banks have requirements that you would need to be a customer of the bank. We have opened up our portal to process both customer and non-customer. And as you likely have seen, the lending platform opened up on Monday for CDFIs, community development groups. I see we have someone from Women Venture on, so you're very familiar with this as well, Carrie. And we've got banks under $1 billion will have access to the portal on starting on Friday. The larger, bigger banks will come in on Tuesday. So as a CDFI, Sunrise had early access to the platform with the intention of being able to help the borrowers that otherwise did not have easy access or access to the first round of funding. So we opened up on Monday, and we're pleased to share that we were able to move applications through to the point of authorization from the SBA and are now moving to funding. So if you'd like, we can stop a little bit and talk about, what the process looks like from the application piece and maybe that timeline piece. Dr. Curry, you had a question on the timeline piece. What we're finding, and with Sunrise, we use a portal that we've set up. It's available, the link on our webpage. It will ask some qualifying questions. It will send a link, and then you're able to apply through our portal. We do the due diligence that we need to do based on the SBA guidelines. We move it through to the point where we would submit for approval. And approval in SBA language is receiving confirmation from the SBA that the loan is approved, and that confirmation comes in the form of an authorization. So what differs from round one to round two is round one, we had immediate response from the SBA that showed whether or not a loan was approved. Round two, there's additional due diligence put in by the SBA between the lender that's submitting and the approval by the SBA. So what we found is it's adding maybe 24 to 48 hours to the approval process. Once approved, what we are doing is notifying our customers. We confirm how we document and disperse, and then the funds go out to the customer. So it's a pretty streamlined process. Can we advance? A couple of other key points to the program that we've heard from borrowers in the first round and continue to hear even in the second round is confirmation that, hey, do I need to pledge any collateral? Do I have to provide a personal guarantee? And the answer to both is no. The program still remains that neither collateral nor a personal guarantee is required for these loans. Next. We want to put a slide in also about other types of funding we know are available. The EIDL loans, we may have seen those come through during this time, express bridge loans, other SBA debt relief. We're going to provide a link to the SBA.gov where more information specific can be obtained. And next. And then just a little bit about Sunrise Banks. I recognize a lot of familiar faces here. And thank you again. Sunrise Bank's the preferred SBA lender, and we are a community development financial institution. And that's why we were able to open up on Monday to start processing loans. And the order of processing on Monday was borrowers that had not received a first round PPP loan. They were the first ones that had access to these funds. And on Wednesday, it was opened up to borrowers that were looking for that second draw. They'd received the first draw of funds, and they still need a little more help, and they're applying for a second round of funding. So we are open and operational on both fronts. We're a B Corp and believe in taking care of our community, and that we find that to be our social responsibility. So that's part of why we were very excited to be in this first round of funding to help these borrowers that had not had access before. And again, we are accepting applications now at sunrisebanks.com. You do not have to be a borrower. One other point of note is, hey, if I got my first loan with a different bank, do I have to go back there? Do I have to do my second round there? You don't have to. We can process a second draw loan. One item you're going to be asked for is your SBA authorization number. That number that would have been on your loan documents likely, that number will need to be inputted. That's a check point for the SBA now in approval for second draw loans. So we've got some tips on how to help you find that. Let's go next. Additional resources, there's a couple of really good points. One is a top line overview of the first draw PPP loans. The second is a top line overview of second draw. We picked out the highlights for this overview to share. This is a great document to access, and we can make this available to you as well. It will likely answer questions that you have about how do I need to do this? And one of the, and I meant to include this on a prior slide, one of the eligibility requirements for the second draw PPP is that the borrower has seen a 25% reduction in gross revenues. And those are tested. The borrower can decide how they want to test that. It's on a quarter to quarter basis. So you can pick a quarter, any quarter. It has to be a calendar quarter in 2019 and compare it to the same quarter in 2020. And that can be used to demonstrate and meet the requirement that you had a 25% reduction in gross revenues. And Anna, do we have one more slide, or are we at the end? All right, good. Anna, can we go back and revisit the poll? I know we had a little bit of delay in getting our poll results. Let me know if you want to pop those back up. We can certainly revisit those, or it may be helpful to just open up to questions.
Chris, I'll start with a question.
Yeah.
Will the PPP loan be taxed?
Ooh, that's a great question. I cannot tell you that answer. That is a great question for your accountant. Make sure that you are in close contact and asking that with them. Everyone's scenario is a little bit different, so I'm not the right person to give you that answer.
I also believe it's an issue at the state level, and I think every state is going to handle it differently. So
Correct.
I would suggest, if anybody out here in this call, and I know some of you have, if you are going to get a PPP loan, you may want to contact your legislator and find out from them if they think it's going to be taxed. And if you don't want to be taxed on it, you should be advocating to your legislators about that.
That's a great point, Chad.
We have a hand raised by Abdul Ali. Abdul, are you there?
Yes, sir.
Do you have a question?
Yeah. I didn't get the first round of PPP because I don't have the what they call them, the paycheck, the payroll. So I don't know if that is affecting the second one as well, because all I need this one is for some kind of utility pay, you know, like the rent and electric bill and those kind of stuff. Does it, like not having a payroll, does it affect it or not for the second one?
Yeah, it does. So you need to have a certain portion. One of the eligibility pieces to determine the amount of the loan is based on your payroll.
So if I apply for it, that means most likely it's not going to be accepted. Is that what it is?
You'll need to include payroll information, right?
Okay, all right. Thank you.
And Abdul, we can send you, we've got that top line overview that'll be very helpful. In fact, I wonder if we can, Anna, are we able to show that screen? Let's look, Julie Warner, it looks like you had asked if you need to apply through your bank opposed to the SBA. Correct. All of the applications are going through lending institutions. SBA is not accepting PPP loans directly.
Chris, I had another one too. On the application, it says the average monthly payroll, you know, times 2.5 months plus idle. What does that mean?
Yeah, so Julie, you're looking at one of the first loans, one of the first loan applicants, right. So if you had an idle loan prior to April 3rd, and keep in mind it's a national program, so there could be borrowers that had been in areas that had disasters and they had an idle loan pre the point that PPP opened up. If that's not you, you can skip that. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Chris, it looks like Lynn Megan had a question. Have you worked with any Medicare or Medicaid providers or businesses who have received CARES Act provider relief funds? If so, do you know if the second round of the PPP will count that as revenue?
Lynn, that is a great question too. There is a question on source of those funds. I don't have the answer for you readily. I can certainly help to find an answer for you or find you a resource link.
Thank you.
Yes.
Chris, next question. This is from Carrie Moore. When counting revenue, should county and state grants be included even when they are restricted to non-payroll use?
And Carrie, you're with Women Venture, correct? Yeah.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. How you're offering technical assistance for a lot of borrowers too. How are you looking at this?
Well, that's why I was asking the question.
Yeah, there are a lot of nuances to this program, aren't there? So again, we would likely want to, because there are so many streamlined revenue sources, Carrie, let's connect offline on this and see if we can find a point that we can get a direct response back. We are finding, if you're in the lender portal, there is a Q&A section in there that's monitored by the SBA, and we're getting responses back relatively quickly. So I would be happy to help pose that question. So I'll connect with you after. Yeah.
And then Chris, Jameson Randall asks, can utilities or other operating expenses be included in the PPP or any other items other than payroll?
Right. So for the loan amount, Jameson, we're just going to use payroll. For the forgiveness piece, remember it's at 2.5 times. And for forgiveness, when you go to look for forgiveness on this, you can include up to 40% non-payroll expenses, and those would be the operating expenses.
Great. Gabriel asks, can 1099 independent contractors work as a payroll, or is this for more uniform payrolls?
Gabriel, great question. What we're seeing in this first round of funding is a number of independent contractors, sole proprietors, individuals that are likely using a Schedule C. So yes, that can be Schedule C, income can be included for the calculation. Gabriel, we can also make sure that you have the link to the instructions on the application. I'm assuming this would be a first round application.
Yeah, first round.
Yep. We'll make sure you've got that, all that information for a first round and an example of the application, what you would need to have to submit. But we're working with a number of these types of borrowers. And frankly, you bring up a good point, and Dr. Curry, I'm sure you'll concur that the real need was to get down to the individuals, the borrowers that, again, did not have access to these funds. So it's great to hear that you're looking into this.
Awesome.
So Chris, the other two questions on here are related to sole proprietor. You somewhat touched on it, Dr. Corey's question about if you can include income instead of payroll for a sole proprietor, and Larval Bunker also just saying, can a sole proprietor with no payroll apply?
Correct. They would use their, and Dr. Curry, you are correct. They would use income, and we can help you with that calculation. We can reach back and provide a little more detail for you on what that calculation would look like. You'll need your Schedule C if that's what you're filing, how you're filing, but we can walk you through that.
Great. Other questions that people have? Anybody else right now? Is there any risk, Chris, do you think, are they going to run out of money on this?
Chad, that's a great question. What we're hearing from the SBA from a number of resources is they don't think so. They think that everybody that wants to access funds should be able to. A couple things have changed. The loan sizes has changed for this draw too. Again, the limit is 2 million where it had been 10 million before. So they think that's going to allow more access. Additionally, it's the qualification that you would have had to have seen that decline in revenue, that 25% decline in revenue. And there were some businesses that frankly did okay. They would not be eligible based on that qualifier. So everything we're hearing is we should have enough money for everyone that needs the funds.
And now Chris Ferguson has asked, do you have to go back to the bank that made the loan to process forgiveness?
You do. And Chris, thanks for making that, that differentiation and that clarity piece. Well, you don't have to go back to the bank that provided the first loan. You do have to go back to whoever originated your loan for forgiveness.
Chris, we have a new administration starting next week. New SBA administrator, other cabinet members are new. Is anything going to change with this?
With this program?
Yeah.
Program specific, I'm not hearing or seeing anything to suggest that we'll see a change with the change in administration. We are updated quite frequently by the SBA. They send out updates as interim final rules, IFRs, as well as FAQs. So any feedback we get from borrowers is very helpful to be able to include those in discussions that can help in clarifying where this may not be clear for borrowers or those using the system. Yeah.
Okay. And have you heard anything about idle loans being forgiven? Carrie Moore was asking.
Carrie, great question. So the loans themselves, no. The grant portion. So what we did see was there was a question on the grant portion of the loans when it came to forgiveness. The initial submissions were subtracting the grant portion from the forgiveness amount of the first PPP loan. That has been stopped. So as of the end of December, that's been fixed with the SBA. They did issue a notification that those any of the idle grants that had been subtracted from forgiveness will be returned, and they'll return through through the banks will get those back to the individual borrowers. So that timeline, initial timeline, I saw 45 to 60 days.
Good. That's a very helpful question.
Yeah.
Great. Any other questions? Looks like we have one other one here. I think this is also from Carrie. Can you just confirm again that only one quarter has to exceed 25% reduction, not annual reduction?
Correct. 19 to 20, you can select a quarter. It needs to be a calendar quarter. If your year is other than a calendar year, it can't just be adjacent months. It needs to be calendar quarter. And if you choose Q1 19, you need to compare it to Q2 19. For loans that are over $150,000 in a second draw, you are going to need to provide that, that documentation that supports your calculation. For loans 150 and under, you will have to provide that at forgiveness. You don't need to provide that at application.
And that 25% reduction question, that's specifically for second draws. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, great. And then Lynn, Megan, do you have a question?
Hey, Lynn.
I do. Hi. Sorry, it's so much easier to talk in person.
Sure.
So we have our first round, and we'll obviously work with our auditor and our accountants on this, but we have our first round forgiven. So, when, and, just ease of conversation, we had about $700,000. So does that go, we'll take it from balance sheet to the financial statement. What month does that go back to? Like, so could it be December? Again, where are you showing that revenue? Because it's obviously now become revenue.
Sure. An accountant would be a better person to answer this one. I do see Pat Siebert on the call. Pat, do you have any insight you would want to share? Sorry to put you on the spot.
No, that's fine. Could you just repeat the question real quick?
Go ahead, Lynn.
Sure. So we have we now have our first round of PPP for fully forgiven. So it now moves from balance sheet to financial statement now as revenue versus the prior as the loan. When does that have to go back to April for that revenue piece? Or if we put it in December, does it go as December and then thereby, how does it affect the financial statement?
Sure. Really, it comes down to two things. If you were going over, say, a year end and you have it forgiven in January, if you satisfied what you thought would be the requirements for that PPP back in, say, November, you could record it in November. But most people are simply recording it at the date that those PPPs are forgiven.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Chris Jameson has another question, a good question, one that I had for you too. Do payroll costs include employer paid payroll taxes and employee benefits?
They do.
Great.
But not like work comp, right? Work comp and unemployment are not.
Correct. And Pat, weigh in on this too, please. You're seeing it from your side for inclusion. Work comp, no, I don't believe so. But I want to hear, I'd rather have an expert in the accounting side take care of that.
Yeah, I don't believe work comp is part of it. Usually it's your payroll taxes, some other employee benefits. And then the first round had caps on it, on what you could do. And I don't know on the second round, I haven't looked.
Up to $100,000 annual for an employee for comp, and that's still the same in the second round too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, Chris, you've been doing this since Monday now, so we're on the fourth day. How has it been going so far? Has the process been for people? Is the technology working? Do they feel like it's a quick process? What is the feedback you've been hearing?
Yeah, if I could share some numbers, we were able to pull some numbers through our portal. We have 3 authorizations back from the SBA, and those were submitted on Monday. So we know it is taking that 48 hours to get that information back. So we're pleased to see those 3 loans back, and those would be the first draw loans, right? We have just a little over 50 submitted right now to the SBA and waiting for their response back. They've built out a new portal that kind of gives us a little bit of tracking that they received it, they're reviewing it. Hey, we've got an issue we have to clear out. And then you wait, and then they'll say, yep, okay, here's your SBA authorization number. So they are being looked at quite a bit closer behind the scenes. We have been able to figure out on our application side, to date, we have received roughly 750 applications. Of those applications, just a little over 250 was draw 1 loans for just under $13 million with an average loan size of $51,000. Dr. Curry, are you still with us? That's a good metric. That's where we want to be seeing things. Draw 2 loans, the second draw loans that would have started on Wednesday, we have submitted, or we have an application right now, just a hair over 500, and the dollar amounts slightly under 50 million. The average loan size for those loans are a hair under 100. So when we did this, kind of ties out to what we saw the first round. First round, we did about 1,800 loans, but of those 1,800, we know that loans 150 and less were about 80% of our loans, and loans that were 50,000 and less were about 62% of that 80. So these are starting to shape up similar to what we saw first round. So that's good news for businesses. We've got businesses that are finding the access to the funds, they're moving through, and that means money back down at the Main Street level. Yeah.
Good. Thank you, Chris.
Yeah, sure.
What other questions do people have? Anyone else? Oh, Chris, do you just want to quickly mention, there's one difference that you've pointed out to me between the first round and this one, and that's about the property damage due to civil unrest. Do you want to just mention that?
Sure. So when, and that comes on the forgiveness side, Chad. So when a borrower submits for forgiveness, they can use 40% now non-payroll expenses for forgiveness. And there was a list, a current list that was out on the first round, and that's been expanded to improve or to include costs that would have been incurred for civil unrest, property damage, personal protection equipment, anything tied to, I mean, we really have 2 pieces here. We've got the civil unrest piece, and then we have COVID. So expenses that are over and above your normal utilities, rent, mortgage interest, that has been expanded to the point to include those expenses that businesses incurred for civil unrest as well. So that's very helpful.
Great.
Yeah.
Gabriel has another question. How does unemployment and PUA funds received affect applications?
They cannot be used for the income piece. And Gabriel, maybe you want to expand. Gabriel, are you asking from, maybe I should ask you to expand just a little bit more on that.
Yeah, I'm just curious if that counts as income during the 2020 months for Q1. If I'm getting unemployment and PUA, is that used as income for myself or?
Yeah, do you, can we connect offline? And I'd be happy to run through your, there's a couple little questions to ask, so.
Completely. Yeah, we can do
I'd
that
be
after
happy to
this.
connect.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, my pleasure, yep.
Great.
So I know it's a lot of information, and it's a lot of information to pull together in digestible manner quickly. So I apologize if our poll didn't work out quite right, but know that we're here for a resource. If you have a question, really regardless of who you work with, the point is to make sure that businesses get access to the funds that they need. So if I can be a resource, we will, I'll certainly do what I can to help get answers to what you need. It just was very nice to see faces today and see people. So that's kind of nice. And I appreciate the opportunity with the Midway Chamber to have this conversation. And I know, Carrie, you've got to be very busy now too. So thank you for taking your time out to listen. And so I will follow up. I know Gabriel will talk, and Abdul, I think we had a follow-up question as well. I'll review and make sure that, again, I answer those questions, Carrie, yours. And if my contact information will be included as well, please feel free to reach out.
Yes, we will include your contact information, Chris. And then I think isn't there an email address specifically devoted to PPP questions at Sunrise Banks too?
Correct. Yep, correct.
Okay, and
Yeah,
can you give us that?
Yes, it is.
I'll recommend people when they reach out to email you and that other email address too.
Right, and so that will be on our webpage. We can access it there. The other point would, the other space will be PPP questions at sunrisebanks.com, at sunrisebanks.com. Yes.
That was PPP questions, plural?
Yes,
okay.
Correct.
Wonderful. Okay, well, once this recording is complete, we'll be sending it out to everybody. And then Chris, can we share that PowerPoint slide deck as well?
Let me do one more quick review on that too with the poll questions in. I might want to clean it up a little bit and make sure you've got most accurate on it.
Great, yeah, and then send that over to me. We'll send it out to everybody along with the recording.
Be happy to do that.
Great, all right.
Great.
Well, thanks everybody for joining us. I hope you had your questions answered.
Thank you.
Thank you guys. Have a good
All
day.
right, thanks, yep, bye.